another human inside their body. Whenever we hear the term safe abortion, we must always ask ourselves, safe for who? Every successful sex-selective abortion is for one. Selective abortion is a denial of the most basic human right, the right to life, for one of the girls. We must also exercise caution when we hear the term legal. Legal does not always mean ethical or right. There are many countries where sex-selective abortions are legal. The United Nations has stated female infanticide and prenatal sex selection are, quote, harmful and unethical practices, end quote. When the United Nations interagency statement allows space for sex-selective abortion, some circumstances, it completely undermines the purpose of the entire document. The United Nations represents the leaders in global advocacy and human rights. Please recall the beginning of the presentation where we reviewed the UN Declaration of Human Rights that stated, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. If those of us who attend the UN Commission on the Status of Women will not advocate for the abolition of all forms of violence against our small sisters in the womb, we undermine the foundations of freedom, justice, peace. Call Article 2 of the Declaration. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without distinction of any kind, that included sex and birth. If the same organization that makes this declaration will make space for the intentional violation of one girl's right to life to promote the situation of another human, we perpetuate entrenched discrimination that the rights of one girl can be violated in the name of benefiting another. This subtle balancing act of protecting can be used for sex-selective purposes. We cannot end discrimination against women and girls by simultaneously allowing discrimination against some very small girls. This is why we need to be honest and why we need to be brave. Freedom always comes at a cost. Human rights for girls are hard won, and we must protect the rights of all girls, especially our smallest, most vulnerable sisters who literally do not have a voice. The United Nations, and particularly the Commission on the Status of Women, is the world leader in defending the rights of women and girls. In some cases, must be honest. We cannot say that we defend the rights of all girls in all cases. The best we can say is we promote the rights of most girls in most circumstances. But until we end the practice of sex-selective abortion, we continue to enshrine the ideals of son preference, wherein most girls deserve rights in most cases, but not all girls all the time. It is so important to understand that unless we take a stand against all sex-selective abortion, the only thing that makes us different from those who practice sex-selective abortions is have value and which do not. I want to say that one more time. Unless we take a stand against all sex-selective abortion, the only thing that makes us different from those who practice sex-selective abortion is the criteria we assign to determine which girls have value and which do not. Unless we take a stand against all sex-selective abortion, the statement on preventing gender-biased sex selection will forever be a house divided, simultaneously calling for a multifaceted approach to ending son preference, but allowing space in the lives of some girls of the time. Some girls will remain without their basic right to life called for in the UN Declaration. We will have protected space where they will join the 140 million missing girls around the world. As leaders in the advocacy and protection of the rights of women and girls, we cannot allow this to happen. We must be honest and we must be brave. We must not allow space for sex-selective abortions to end the lives of any girls. We must stand for all girls all of the time. In conclusion, we agree with human rights and gender equality. We agree that gender-based violence exists, combat, and end. That sex abortion is a form of gender-based violence, and we agree on the definition of life and that abortion ends a life. Now, as world leaders in protecting the rights of women and girls from discriminatory practices, we must advocate for an end to all sex-selective abortions and protection of the right to life for all women and girls. Thank you for your commitment, thank you for your passion, and thank you for your time. We have about 5 minutes left in the presentation. So in the time remaining, I want us to quickly look at similarities between the arguments given to allow the abortions of females, how they relate to historical rights violations. Discrimination always seems to follow a similar pattern. So I encourage all of you to think of some human rights violations that you're familiar with. There are unfortunately many global examples to choose from. We will look at 4 common excuses made for discrimination and 2 grounding questions to help us evaluate the validity of any argument. The first example is dehumanizing language. In this case, terms intended to make the victim appear less human are used. The unborn is really called by providers and lay people alike. However, at the same gestational age, if a woman is considering a sex-selective abortion, the baby will be called a fetus. This is an effort to deny the humanity of the unborn girl child and make the human rights violation of sex-selective abortion appear less real. Dehumanizing language is routinely used in other examples of discrimination. Secondly, focusing on the actual or perceived benefits for those who are not having their human rights violated. Arguments defending sex-selective abortion focus on the continuing, not the girl who will be killed. This is similar to historical arguments against the abolition of slavery. Instead of acknowledging the deplorable conditions of the slaves, proponents ignored that and focused on the economic cost of the abolition of slavery. Likewise, with sex-selective abortion, the life of the unborn girl is ignored, and the focus is on the perceived benefits to those who will continue living. Number 3 is the viability argument. This position argues that the fetus is not human until it can survive outside the womb. It highlights between women's development stages and tries to use these differences to deny that very young girls are even human at all. Consider this. If I am suddenly relocated to Mars, I will die. I will die not because I am not human, but I will die precisely because I am human. And a human at my developmental stage cannot survive in that environment. Likewise, humans, for approximately the first 40 weeks of their life, are aquatic. If they are removed from that environment prematurely, without specialized equipment after 25 weeks, they will die. They will die because they're not human. They will die because they're human, and humans at that developmental stage require that environment to sustain their life. Additionally, the gestational age at which children can survive outside the womb depends on access to specialized medical equipment. If we accept the viability argument, this means that children in resource-rich countries born to affluent families would become human earlier than those who have less resources. This is clearly discriminatory and untrue. The fourth and last example, visible differences in human some humans are not human at all. This argument is similar to the last example. Humans in their earliest stages of development do not look like humans at later stages. Humans across the globe have a terrible record of denying rights to other groups because they look different. Denying rights to girls in their early stage of development is simply our current practice of discrimination and dehumanization because they don't look like us. Therefore, we do not have to extend the same rights that we have. This argument is found in some form in almost all human rights violations, and this case is no different. I'll end with a question that can help protect us from the above ideologies and evaluate the validity of any defenses given for sex-selective abortions. Number 1, if an argument is made to allow sex-selective abortion, would we accept the same argument to defend the killing of a 3-year-old female? Consider the examples of poverty, abuse, illness, too many siblings, too many females in the family, and other examples. The significance of these examples cannot be minimized. Many of them are very serious, and they deserve intervention. None of them involved the killing of girls, and none of them are an acceptable justification for the killing of girls. Lastly, do humans become pregnant with other humans? The answer is yes. So the more important question I will leave with you is, do we believe in human rights for all humans? And with that, I will return the floor to our moderator. Thank you again.
Matea, I hate to talk over you, but you're muted. Sorry, we've all been messaging you, but without. I'm happy if you go. I'm my of presentation, and I'm happy to introduce myself. Don't worry. My name is Alyssa Corin, and I work for ADF International. We're very happy, very honored to co-sponsor this event, and so grateful for all of you for taking the time to be with us. I represent my organization at the UN, both in New York and in Geneva, and I've done so for the last decade. And today I really want to take the time, building on the testimonies and the expertise that we've heard so far, to emphasize really the solutions. What do we need to do in order to move past this problem that's been, I think, so clearly articulated at this point? And I think that what it's really to do is emphasize separate things. First, the importance of a legal response, that every country really needs to have a strong legal framework that prohibits sex-selective abortion. And second, of course, what we want to see is a corresponding shift in culture. And until we reach the point where this is unthinkable, we need to develop ways in which we reach this point. So that, of course, it means educational programs and the like. But really, when you see real cultural change, it's going to be contingent on, it's going to